Hello everybody, I am Naresh Jasutani and I'll be the presenter of this video. In this video, I'm going to talk about quantum computing, the basics of quantum computing and how it works. A brief introduction about myself. I am a specialist customer engineer working at Google in AI ML data analytics space. I have 16 years of experience in data analytics and AI. In my previous experience, I have worked as the practice head of Center of Excellence for Data Analytics Practice. This is my LinkedIn link profile. And I am also a published author, and I have published a book, Adopting TensorFlow for the Real World AI. This book is available on Google Play and Kindle Store. Let's move on to quantum computing. Let's take an example of a coin flip. Before the coin comes to rest, there are multiple states the coin goes through between heads and tails. Now let's see this in a more diagrammatic fashion. So you have a coin, it spins on the time axis, heads, tails, heads and tails before it comes to rest. Now in classical computing, what you would do is you would wait till the coin is at rest over here. And then you would decide the outcome of the coin. But in quantum computing, you would understand the positions or state. Let's take this state in which the coin is heads. There is a quantum energy, a little bit of energy, a finite energy required to change the state of this heads to tails. Finite amount of quantum energy, which is a packet energy, going from tails to head. It really depends on the point in time you measure the output. So few things: position, state, and the measure. Now, if I tell you to find out the state of the coin while it's still in the air, what would you do? What would you be observing? The observation would be the coin is sometimes head, sometimes tails, depending on the time you measure. That means a single coin can be heads and tails at the same time, depending upon the point in time you measure. This is the concept of quantum computing. Here, these items, these positions are known as superpositions. Let's take a different example. When you spin the coin and you take the position of the coin on this particular instance, the coin is heads. That means the coin has only one state, which is heads. Here you have tails. Please understand that the coin can take only two states, heads or tails. There cannot be any third position. Similarly, if you take that concept and apply in terms of energy, how it looks like. So the word quantum refers to discrete quantities of energy or some other physical quantity. The quantum object is the one which relates in a well-defined way to a single quantum of energy. For example, photon. A photon is a single particle of energy. Here you go. You have a photon traveling, and that is your single particle of energy. Let's take a different example. Let's take an example of an electron revolving around nucleus. And let's assume that this is the lower orbit state and this is a higher orbit excited state. Please note that in our example, only two levels are possible. The first level is this level 0, which is the low energy state. And this level is level 1, which is the higher energy state. Now, please, let's take an example of let's take the previous example of the coin. A finite energy was required to excite this electron from a lower state to the higher state. That means turning the coin from heads to tails, a finite quantity of energy, the quantum of energy was required. The same thing here. A finite energy is required to take the electron from a lower orbit to the higher orbit. The amount of energy it takes for the electron to move from the orbit to the higher orbit is known as the quantum of energy. That means that is the energy you would need to supply for the electron to change its states. But please understand that there can be only two states. The states would be the lower orbit, which is denoted by the straight line 0 and this angle, and number 1, which is the higher energy state, straight line 1 and this. This is known as the superposition. An equation for the superposition is driven by constant, a complex calculation of constants, which is C0. This is the formula for the superposition of the electron. C0, 0 plus C1 of 1. If it is lower state, that means C1 is 0 and it will be in the lower state. If the electron is in the higher state, the C1 will have value while C0 will be 0. So that is the equation. Let's define superposition. One peculiar feature about quantum mechanics is the existence of superpositions. A superposition is like a special mixture of energy with levels 0 and 1, where the weights, which is C0 and C1, are defined by a complex constant. So these are complex constants. There are only two configurations possible, 0 and 1. But it depends on the time you measure. It can be 0 or 1 depending on the position of the electron. Quantum computer is very similar. It depends on the time or the state where the measure is taking place. And you would need to supply a finite energy level to move the electron from one orbit to other. I know it can be confusing. Let's take another example. Here in this example, we will talk about the comparison of quantum bits, which is qubits, to our classical bits, which you already are aware of. So as defined earlier, the state 0, we will denote it like this, and the state 1, we will denote it like this. Now, in our classical computing, a single bit, B1, B2, B3, can take any position. That means only two values, either 1 or 0. It cannot have any other position. But a qubit, which is very analogous to a classical bit of information. Let's assume the qubit is QB. It can take 1 or 0. Remember the flip of the coin? Remember the electron at any given point in time, depending on the superposition, meaning the point at which you measure. Remember the coin, while it's in the air, you haven't measured it yet. You will measure when it is at rest. However, if you try to measure the state of the coin while it's in the air, it can be sometimes 0, sometimes 1, or 0 and 1 at the same time, depends on how quickly you can measure. Similarly, the quantum bit can be 0 or 1 at the same time, depending on this superposition formula. That is the concept of quantum bit. The quantum bits are able to perform very quickly large complex mathematical equations because a bit can be either 0 or 1 at the same time. Now, let's take a qubit. In the quantum space, the difference between the classical computing and the quantum computing is that the quantum hardware lives in a richer world. Let's consider a very simple example here, where you have a quantum object QB1, which is entirely described by the fact that it can take any two energy levels depending upon a superposition. Now, in order to define a qubit, you would need two classical bits, which is B1 and B2. Think about that. For one qubit, you would need two bits, two classical bits. Let's take an example of two qubits. Please understand that two qubits can share a superposition, can share a time of the measurement. Either they can be same, which is 0, 0, or one can be different than the other, or both can be 1. For defining those, you would need 4 complex calculations. Here, you would need 4 bits to define 2 classical. You would need 4 classical bits to define 2 qubits. In essence, you would need 2 raised to the power of n qubits to define qubits in classical form. So that means, in other words, if there are 3 qubits, you need 2 raised to power 3 bits. That means 8 classical bits to define 3 qubits. Just because of this exponential power of quantum computing is advanced. If you search Google and try to understand how quantum processors, quantum hardwares are created, they are created by superconducting elements, superconducting metals at a very, very low temperature. And that's how a quantum computer is created. Look it up, you will understand more. Let's talk about how the quantum computer is processing your information. How does it process bits? Let's take an example of a qubit. Remember the coin flip? You would have heads and tails depending on the time you take the measurement. Here, K0, K1, K2, and K3 define 4 superpositions in which you have constant C0, constant C1 multiplied by a bit. Remember the superposition formula. Now, please understand that this is the quantum bit measured and converted into a classical bit. As I discussed earlier, a quantum computer is developed by superconductors, a superconducting element, and it may not be able to store information. Therefore, in order to store the output of the calculation, you would use the classical bit. Again, I repeat, the quantum bits are made up of superconducting elements, and therefore it cannot store information. In order to store the output of a quantum computing algorithm, you would need classical bits. I know it's difficult, but you will understand. Let's take 2 qubits. Again, 3 qubits. So how do you do quantum computing? These will be gates. Gates means that finite amount of quantum energy you would need to supply to the qubit to do a calculation. I repeat it one more time. Quantum gates are defined as that finite amount of energy, finite signal, which you would need to provide to the state of qubit in order to perform your calculations. That means for quantum computing, you would supply some signals to the quantum bit in order to do the calculations. And those are known as quantum gates. So you would supply quantum energies, quantum signals to the superposition. So at a position, you would apply quantum energy in order to do the quantum computing. That is quantum gate. Don't worry, we'll see that in detail in the next set of videos. When you talk about quantum gates, you can apply gate across 2 superpositions like this, or like here, or even between those 2 qubits. It's possible for you to apply gates in any form or fashion. And those gates are nothing but our calculations. If I have to do a layman term here, I would consider a gate as a calculation. Diagram you are seeing here is nothing but a quantum circuit. A quantum circuit is based on a time series which you read it from left to right, and then the number of quantum bits which you read from top to bottom. So quantum circuits are circuits which can help do quantum computing by using quantum gates. This is a circuit diagram of a quantum computer. And then the gates are the calculations, those signals which you supply for a calculation. And a quantum computer is that computer which is capable of performing or executing a quantum circuit. And that is quantum computing for you. Let's look at some commonly used terms for quantum computing. Number one is quantum. Quantum refers to the discrete quantities of energy or some other physical quantity. Next is a qubit. A qubit is analogous to bit in the classical computing, known as quantum bit or qubit. Next is, how do you calculate the number of bits required for representing a quantum bit? It is 2 raised to the power of n qubits. So if you have 1, it is 2 raised to power 1 qubit will be the number of bits required. 2 raised to power 2 for 2 qubits, 2 raised to power 3, 4, and 5 as you increase the qubits. The number of bits is going to grow exponential here. Next is superposition. A superposition is like a special mixture of energy levels 0 and 1, where the weights of each energy level is given by a complex constant. Please understand that a qubit can have only 2 outputs, 0 or 1, but then it is defined by the complex constants C0 and C1. Measurement is the step, is the position which you measure qubits and convert into a classical bit. Quantum gates are instructions to send control signals to the quantum computer to perform a certain quantum action. Quantum gates would be used in our exercise coming in next few sessions. Quantum circuits, which you saw in the last slide, was the quantum circuit. A quantum computer is a new type of computer that stores and acts on the information in its quantum form. A quantum computer stores information using quantum bits. And there is a NISQ, noisy intermediate scale quantum, a term used to distinguish today's computer from the future error corrected ones. In today's quantum computer, there is a higher possibility of error because we are not there yet. The science is still to be evolved, and therefore we call current era as the NISQ era. And finally, SERQ. SERQ is an open source framework which can help do the quantum computing for you. So this is the framework which we are going to use for quantum computing. So I hope this explanation helped you a little bit. I understand it can be sometimes difficult to get a concept of quantum computing just because we are so deep into classical computing, and it will take a little shift in understanding and direction. And I would strongly encourage you to watch this video one more time to understand quantum computing. In the next set of videos, I hope I can take you to the deeper level of quantum computing, and then you will have a clear understanding of quantum circuits, quantum bits, quantum gates, and quantum computing, and how it can change and help you to derive complex calculations which are practically impossible for a classical computer. However, please understand that the quantum computers are not here to replace classical computers. Somebody gave a very good example wherein the explanation given was, if classical computers are the caption for a picture, quantum computer are the pictures. That means caption is as important as the picture. That's how we expect a quantum computer to work hand in hand with the classical computer. Keep watching.